Herman from NMP. Thank you for watching another Mortgage Leadership Outlook. I'm excited to bring to you today Jen Du Plessis, who is the CEO of Kinetic Spark Consulting. Jen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Andrew. We've been having a great time talking in the green room.
I know, something. I feel like actually we should have just recorded that because listen, I got to learn actually a little bit about where you are right now. Yeah. Which feel free to tell us, where are you right now?
Yeah, we're at our family lake house up in Deep Creek, Maryland. And, so for a lot of people who aren't on the East Coast, they don't really know that when they think of Maryland, they think of it being east of Washington, D.C., but there's a little panhandle of Maryland that is actually west of D.C. and west of West Virginia, and that's where I'm at. So it's called Deep Creek, and it's a year-round lake community. We have a lake, lakefront house, but also for skiing. It's a ski resort as well in the winter. So yeah, it's just really cool to come up here, and this is the first time that I'm seeing my grandkids for in 4.5 months, other than through FaceTime, right? So we had the opportunity now that things are opening up, and we just couldn't wait to see each other and see how big they've grown. In fact, one of them he's been sleeping for the last 4 hours, so I still haven't seen him yet. So we might hear him in this.
Oh, that's great. That's the new norm. It's totally acceptable now. Screaming babies, screaming dogs, it doesn't make a difference.
Right. Right. It's totally, and doing a video from a bedroom. So in a bedroom. So.
Listen, I'm in my laundry room. This is my laundry room right now.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well then I don't feel so bad.
No, this is totally acceptable. The new norm is okay in my book. So all right, so now let me ask you, when you go to the lake house. So by the way, if you don't know Jen Du Plessis, but besides being actually right now, so she's a podcaster who was doing podcasting long before it was cool. Like I don't understand. We're gonna ask you a little bit about that. Like what led you to create a podcast? It was like 5 years ago?
5.5, yeah.
5 years ago. I didn't understand actually why people would be doing these podcasts. We're gonna want to learn a little bit about your podcast. So. Also was a top originator, runs a coaching platform right now. So I want to know, I think, when you go to the lake house and you're here, so here it's a Monday, you're there actually, during the work week. Yeah. Are you going to be working like full on? Is it full Jen Du Plessis, working, or what is the lifestyle that you're going to live when you're at the lake house?
Yeah, no. This particular lake house is that you and I were talking about is that my husband and I, go to a different lake for adult time, and we come here for family time. So no, this is all about the family, and I try to limit, as many appointments as possible or many interviews, but look at when the opportunity comes up, and especially right now, because this is the first time I'm seeing my grandkids in 4.5 months, right? And my son said, hey, look, we have an opening, someone canceled. And so we're just all swarming up here as quickly as we can. And, we just have to do some work while we're here, and that's okay. But, I think I've talked about this before with you. Everything that I do is about creating a lifestyle, right? Like mastering your priorities so that you can master your life and your lifestyle, so that nothing is being hurt by me being here and not working. And I'll be here through Wednesday. So I'll be doing some work here and there, but it's just putting my priorities in place. Right now my kids and spending time with my grandkids is a huge priority with me and for me. And, it'll be a priority for my husband later on this week. Right now his priority is loans.
Yeah.
He'll come up here on Wednesday, and I'll go back home and I'll be able to focus on what I need to do later on in the week.
So, and let's go. I want to go back to your career, because you haven't always had this balanced career. You've actually had, at some point, I'm assuming actually, to get started in the business, you, like so many other people, when they get into the business, it's grind, right?
Yeah.
So, when did actually, when did that go from, Jen Du Plessis working as hard as I possibly can, do what I can to get every loan I possibly can, to having actually a more, balance in life?
Yeah. It happened about 10 years ago. And I wrote about this in the article that will be in the magazine that I know you'll have out there, and have a link for everybody to read. But yeah, I had just, everything that I do in my practice, even way back, was about systems, about putting really, really good systems in place, and having a perfect loan process before it was cool to have a perfect loan process. And, so I was in the midst of putting that together, but I was doing all the pieces of it, and, and trying to cultivate business, and trying to, nurture my clients, and, all the pieces of it. And of course I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off, like most people do. And, and it wasn't healthy, from an emotional standpoint, from a physical standpoint. My husband and I were at each other all the time, and we'll be married 37 years next month. We're high school sweethearts. And for 17 years in this business, we have worked together, as well. And he wasn't in the business. I brought him on the quicksand. And, but, everything was more important in my life, meaning that my business was more important than my family. My business was more important than my health. My business was more important than anything, because maybe part of it is I'm a woman, and I was trying to climb a corporate ladder and prove to people. Part of it was just the nature of our industry. It's so competitive, and, I can't stand seeing those numbers and not being number one in the office. Right. And it was just all that. It's such an addiction, to have business and have loans flowing. And, but I just got to the point where I was sabotaging everything for the sake of this business. And I said, I think where my success is going to come is saying no to people, is saying no to clients, and letting them realize that I really do have a life. And the funny thing was, I was doing, between 40 and 50 million a year at that time, every year in, year out. And as soon as I stopped working so hard, I started working smarter. I started putting different systems and adding people to my team, and not tons of people, but the right people. My business, went up to 75, and then 98, and then 102. And I worked 4 days a week for the last, I'd say, 6 to 8 years of my career. And still did those kinds of numbers. And but it had to take, a real big hit to my face, a punch in the face, that I was not even around my family. They were creating all these memories, and I wasn't even in them, and I wasn't part of it. My business was more important. And I realized that's not really what was happening or what I wanted to happen. So that's really where it happened. And just put a bunch of stuff in place, flip the chip off my shoulder, and said, you know what, they don't want me, they want the system I've created that gives them the experience that they get. And if I can duplicate that with other people, then I don't have to work as hard.
But so like, was there a moment, or was there like an epiphany that you had? Was there something that you missed? Was there something actually that was it like Whitney's dance recital? You're like, oh my goodness.
Well, I missed all those. I mean, don't we all? I mean, I missed all of them. There were some that I went to, and most of the time I was late, showed up late, had to leave early, left in the middle of it, out in the foyer making phone calls. And same with Kirk, he's playing baseball and football, and where am I? I'm pacing the chain link fence, and trying to get deals taken care of, sitting in my car, opening up my computer to pull credit. I mean, it's just all a bunch of bull, to be honest with you. But, the epiphany for me was just being at dinner one night. Supposedly I was at dinner, and I got that client call and said, they need to talk to me. And I was outside talking to them, and pacing back and forth as we do. And I happened to look inside the restaurant, and my family was in there laughing and creating all these memories. And that was the apex for me.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't that it happened again. It had happened 1,000 times before, but this day, this one was the apex of, it has to stop. It has to stop. I can't keep doing this.
Wow. Now, and did like did your family come to you and talk to you about this, or you knew it actually yourself? Like that was there. Did Brian have a sit down? Did Whitney? What happened? Like how did?
Yeah, no, they never did, and that's the sad thing about it. And I know anybody who's watching this is probably thinking the same thing too. Is that they were just trained that way. You know, my kids have been in this business. I mean, in September it'll be 40 years for me, and you know, my son's 34, my daughter's 33. So they've been in this business their entire lives. So they were just, you know, prone to knowing that they were going to be second fiddle to this business. Wow. So they never really asked me. I'm the one who finally said, you know, enough is enough. And I do remember Whitney telling me one time we were talking about, oh, Mom, you remember when we went to blah, 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 blah. And I don't even remember going on the vacation, let alone the moment on the vacation. I don't even remember going on that vacation at all. Wow. Because I was so ingrained in my computer and so ingrained in my, you know, success that I just missed a lot of their lives. And I vowed that I would never miss my grandkids' lives. And it's a sad thing because if you've ever watched Bill Cosby himself, you know, and he's talking about it, you know, that his parents, you know, were always so rough on him and all that stuff. And then they come in and they're handing out money and candy to his kids, their grandkids, saying, you know, these are the same people that, you know, were rough on me and now they're trying to buy their way to heaven, right? And I kind of feel like that's me, you know, it's like this is the same woman who, you know, was like, I'm gonna succeed and be competitive and be successful and prove to everybody. And, you know, now I'm trying to get to heaven, but it really isn't, you know, that. It's really just that I got smart and realized that I could do 3-4 times as much income, you know, as much volume and make as much income doing half the work.
Yeah. So, and let's talk about these 10 years, because these 10 years actually. So, I mean, so not only actually were you spending more time with your family, and actually I happened to hear actually on the Culture Matters podcast, you take off a day a week, you know, for your church, right? Yeah.
I deliver communion. Yeah.
Okay. So you have added more to your life, because you've also since then you've come out actually with you know, I'm going to throw the banner up actually. So you have actually the podcast. Let's see,
a couple now. I have it now. Yeah.
So we have the podcast, the 5-year running podcast that you have right there. If you want to catch that, you can you know, catch the iTunes link up there. So you have that. You've written you know, 2 books. Well, 1 book is out. You have another one coming. So you
actually have a 3rd one coming. I just signed an agreement today. I have a 3rd one coming, and I've been a collaborator in 4 other books now, and I have the new podcast out, you know, too. So it's, you know, yeah, I'm busy. Okay, I look back and I go, I don't know how I had a mortgage practice, because I don't have time. I have other businesses too. You know, I have real estate investing. I have Airbnbs, and so, you know, I'm busy.
So so through this, I mean, you have the same 168 hours, you know, 10 years ago that you did today.
Yeah.
You know, so what is the secret to being able to pull so much more out of your life, where, you know, and is the Jen Du Plessis that I'm meeting today very different from the Jen Du Plessis from 10 years ago?
Before that apex, yes, because I wouldn't be present with you. I would be multitasking, trying to hurry the conversation along so I could get to other things, you know, and in my mind, I wasn't with you either. And my stomach would be like doing this, waiting for this to be over with so that I could get back to that one client, you know, so I'm definitely much more calm, much more present, much more curious about people, you know. And it's funny because it's always been there. My heart's always been there. I've always been a server. I'm very big in charitable contributions, which is, you know, a lot of what I did in my practice. I'm very big on that, but no one ever saw that because I was like a rock being skipped across a lake. You know, I just did a little of this, a little of that, and a little of that. And so now what you're seeing is totally different. But so it's a learned habit. You know, it didn't happen overnight. There wasn't anyone around like me to be able to share, you know, how to do it. And that's what I teach people now. You know, is I have the secret sauce for that. I have the secret sauce for you to be able to get your priorities straight so you can master everything else. And it's funny because in the process of it, again, volume went up, everything's expanded. All my other businesses have expanded as well. But I am, you know, I work with intention. I work on purpose. I work with focus, and all of my decisions are based on me serving me. And I hate to say it like that, but you know, it's what fulfills you, for God's sakes, you know, what makes you happy. And if I can get a little chunk of that every day, and it's a little fix every single day.
Yeah.
You and I've talked about, you know, I'm a competitive ballroom Latin and swing dancer. I'm a competitive marksman. I'm on a shooting team with a Remax office even now. And these are things that are a priority to me. So if I want to, you know, it's like, don't build a legacy, live a legacy.
Yeah.
Right?
Great. I love
Don't
that.
build it for someone else to enjoy it. Live it. Right. And I'm still building it for others to leave it on to perpetuity for my grandkids and whatnot. But for me, I want to live that legacy. And I just don't feel that we do that in our industry often enough. It's just so, I wish I could just put my fingers on or my tongue on the word for it. It's just so, it's like a scorpion, you know, we're just like, we're in and then we're out, and then we're in and we're out. And it's just, you know, really bad for us physically, emotionally, mentally. Look at all the divorce we have, all the heart attacks we have. I mean, gosh, there's just so many things. And I just said, you know what, I don't want that. And if I can share that with other people and help them have the quality of life, you know, my mom used to say, you have such a great quality of life, right? And I'd say, well, yeah, but I want a life of quality. That's the difference.
Wait, say that again. I don't think I.
So instead of a quality of life where you keep up with the Joneses and you have things, right?
Yeah,
And we often
yeah.
have things. I want a life of quality.
Interesting. Wow. Okay, like I get that. That makes instead of a quality of life, you want a life of quality. So now,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think actually? This is a little morbid here, but I want to know actually what do you think actually your obituary would read if it was written by your church?
By my church.
Yeah, so your church actually, if they were going to write a like a one-line obituary about Jen Du Plessis, what do you think they would say?
Jen always went first.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, because whenever there's a need, I'm always raising my hand. Yeah, and I have the bandwidth to do it because of the way I live my life. So, and that fulfills me. You know, it absolutely fulfills me. You know, and somehow I've got pegged into this. I really work with a lot of elderly people, so people that are 75 and above. You know, I've got one person from our church that's 103, and I go in and chit chat with them for hours and hours and hours, and I, you know, I love hearing their stories, and because I'm a big storyteller myself, but I love hearing their stories. And and the bad thing about it, the bad thing about it, is that I'm generally the person that takes communion to people that are in hospice, and so I lose a lot of them. Yeah, so it's important for me to get their story from them as quickly as I can, not because I'm going to publish it or do anything, but so that my life can be grander and bigger from having known them.
Wow. All right. So that's powerful. So now, what would the obituary read if it was written by one of your clients, one of your back in your mortgage clients? Because you're not producing anymore, right?
No, okay. Not in the normal sense.
Yeah. So yes. So I mean,
I definitely am. I'm not required to be licensed with what I do. I do only investor, multifamily, commercial flips, there's a whole other world out there. It's beyond QM. It's beyond QM. So I still do that. Yeah. Because I didn't want any of my clients to say, well, you're not in it, you don't know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I do.
So, and if we were to look at your mortgage clients, your last mortgage client, so after you achieved that balance, after you started to actually have, putting actually things into priority, what would you think actually, one of your last mortgage clients would say about, Jen Du Plessis, as her originator or as his originator?
Yeah. Jen made me feel like I was the only client in the world.
Wow. Okay. And now, what would your family say? What would the obituary that's written by your family? What would that say?
I wish she had found out sooner. Yeah. I think that I wish she would have found out sooner. Yeah, because so much was lost.
Oh, that's gonna tear me up. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. That's but something. So many people actually have this bleeding obituary is what I call it, is where like the church obituary will say they were such a hardworking person, or their home obituary is going to say they were one of the best mortgage people and loving the church. But to have actually, even, for the most part, it sounds like actually, and I would bet to say that you're being a little harsher critic on yourself as Jen Du Plessis, the family person, but you're trying to make up for those years, and that's a beautiful thing. So, and I'm gonna so I could dry my eyes a little bit here. I'm going to shift to some of the questions that came in the room. We got speaking of family, Joel Berman. Jen, do you feel? Hey, Dad. Jen, do you feel that part of the problem with overworking is not delegating to others for concerns they can't do the job as well as you do?
Absolutely. Of course, that's where it comes from. It's it's a invisible chip that we all wear on our shoulders. That we built it. They need me. They need all of that. That's why I said I flicked that chip off. Because think about what you have actually built is a system that attracts people. That's what it is. So when you start going down the line of so let's look at it. When you have one loan, or two or three, you can babysit those loans. You can hug them and squeeze them and call them George, right? And you can do every part of that loan. But when you're doing that and you do a bang up job, if you do a bang up job, right, and you have a system so that it's consistent with every one of them, so that the experience is so grand that it creates this revolving door of referrals, right? People are compelled to tell people about you. It's not even that you have to ask. And do we ask? Sure. But they're so compelled because the experience and the feeling that they got, they want others to feel the same way. And that's why systems are so important, so that everybody has that, that experience when it comes in. But when your volume starts going up, you actually aren't working at 100% capacity because you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off. You're working at 60 or 40% capacity, and things are falling through the cracks. And then that's when you say, well, no one can do it like me. And I'm saying, well, thank God, because you would fire you. You would fire you in these areas because you're not even meeting your criteria anymore. And so it's better to hire someone, even if they did 1% better than you, it's better to hire someone who does it better than you. And so you do get to, and those are lead indicators, right? You have lead and lagging indicators, and those are lead indicators. And everything I do in my practice is called cracking the top producer code, because it's your glass ceiling, where you're just bumping up against that. And there's a reason you're not breaking through. And a lot of times it's us. We're the ones, thumb pointing instead of, well, they can't this and she didn't that and he didn't that. It's not finger pointing, it's thumb pointing. I didn't lay out the tranches deep enough, the roles deep enough, and hire a rock star in that role, rather than I just need someone who breathes and I'm just going to hire anybody. And then they don't, it doesn't work out. So it's finding out, where are the areas that you've lost your touch, right? Or you don't want to be involved in, because you're better off out here talking and creating relationships, right? And so the last thing I want to do is look at a pay stub. And then when you do, you're not even really there looking at it. And that's when things fall through the cracks. So why not hire someone who says, oh, I love looking at pay stubs, right? That's their thing. And you say, good, take
They're
it.
out there. They exist.
And when they love what they do, they're going to do it perfect.
Yeah.
When they don't like, when you're trying to shove them into looking at pay stubs and they really want to be doing branding, that's when you have the problem.
Yeah, that's great. Great advice there. I think actually, that's all about delegating to the right people and making sure that they're connected to what they're doing. So, got another one of my AmBiz teammates here, Christy, says, in this truly unprecedented time, we know that mortgage leaders have been facing new and pressing challenges every single day. How did you address common issues that your clients had to work with their work-life balance during the pandemic, and we're all faced to work from home? So talk a little bit about that, because I mean, this has been tough, and you know, you have a lot of originators out there that are faced with, besides actually the new norm, they're faced with an abundance of business, and to keep that work-life balance, that must be very, very difficult. So if you could kind of address Christy's question, that'd be great.
Yeah. So Christy, I mean, the first thing is I don't believe in balance. And as we've been talking here, I think you've said balance like 4 or 5 times. I refuse to use the word.
But I got you to use the word.
And that's why I use, priorities. When you can become the master of your priorities, you can become the master of your life and your business. And it's a matter of prioritizing rather than balancing, because when you're balancing, think about it. And, if you're balancing on 2 boats, are you ever relaxed? Is any one of those boats getting all the attention? And the answer is no. So that's the problem with balance.
Yeah.
So it's hop on one boat and pay attention, and then hop on another boat and pay attention. So it's funny you've brought this up, because a lot of my clients, have been really challenged, obviously, with the higher volume, but then they've got the kids at home. And then, they're trying to pivot their business a little bit, not a lot. We haven't been doing I pivoted my business, March 9th, the day I got home from Las Vegas. That was my last day on the road. I instituted the 12-week year. And so in the last 12 weeks, I have accelerated my practice 1 year, which includes hiring 4 new people on my team. I mean, you name it. I have accelerated every bit of my business, and my other businesses too. I hate saying this, but I can't wait for the foreclosures and whatnot, because as an investor, that's a great place for me too. So I've had to pivot and make sure my eye's on that ball, because that's an opportunity that's coming up. But for my clients, it's really been a matter of, let's focus in, let's time block on the things that are really, really important right now. We are not in a situation where we are when once we're released, we'll be able to go back to where we're looking at all our different revenue streams, that being, I got to talk to realtors. I might need to go to a builder, a financial planner. I need to do nurturing. Maybe I need to do classes. Maybe I need to do virtual things. We're trying to simplify everything and really, really pull people closer in a more simplified manner, while at the same time, we're getting ready to position ourselves so that we can be the first to market when we are released. So what we've been doing a lot of is just making sure that we are prioritizing what's most important right now. And a lot of that is spending time with your children, and turning it off and calling it a day is what we've been calling it. Just call it a day. I want everyone to just turn everything off and call it a day, a couple times a week, and be with your family and recharge yourself and sharpen your axe so that you can be better for your clients when you are with your clients. But I would say the biggest word that we're using right now is nurturing. It's nurturing everybody, making sure, how I can do a script like this, and if it were text, you could understand the difference here. But, I could do a script of, hey, Andrew, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great.
Good. Is there anything I can do for you?
Get me a quote on rate.
Yeah. That type of phone call is a lot different, but it's the exact same words. Hey, Andrew, how are you doing? I wanted to check in on you. I was just thinking about you.
I mean, fortunately, I still have some income coming in, but it's not tough with a wife out of work and the kids trying to deal with their homeschooling situation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I definitely can understand. Well, the reason I was calling is there anything I can help you with?
So I keep hearing actually rates are low, so maybe we should be talking about that.
Yeah.
I mean,
So it's the exact same words,
yeah,
it's the tone. And
but
so what we did is I had to address that with everybody and say, yes, keep making your phone calls, keep connecting, keep engaging, keep nurturing and not neglecting, but tone it down.
yeah.
And when we come on the outside of this, and I firmly believe it, because I've seen, to me, this is a downturn in the market, even though it isn't, right? We've seen all of these recessions and everything. This is like the seventh time I've lived through this. And because it is kind of different in that way, right? People aren't necessarily, some people want to talk about business, but others are still trying to figure it out. And you can't assume that they're in that position, right? In the moving forward position as much as it's maintaining right now. And I said to, everybody, look, I really, really feel if I had a realtor that I was working with going into this and I haven't called them, I will not have that relationship coming out because they're going to say, where were you?
Yeah.
Where were you? And I also think that if you had a really difficult relationship or you were working with someone that complicated you, this is the time to sort that out and figure out if you truly want to work with them in the future. Let's work with people that complement us, not complicate us. And so we're doing a lot of assessment of our style, assessment of our brand, assessment of who we want to work with. What is our practice going to look like on the other side? A lot of that right now.
So, how do you prospect during these times? Like, and is it maybe you don't? Maybe actually it's just a
Oh, no,
matter
you
of
totally do. Yeah, you
Yep.
totally do. I mean, this is when you're planting the seeds for better relationships. You definitely are. So, I mean, one, prospect through your database. That is the number one place. You have acres and acres of diamonds right underneath you. You've got to engage. Engaging isn't sending a newsletter. Engaging isn't doing videos. Engaging is picking up the phone. It's texting them. It's doing a video text, right? Or an IM. I mean, it's going deeper, engaging. And I think people do want to hear phone calls right now. So it's engagement. That's number one. And yes, you can prospect through that. There's no doubt about it because you're saying, look, I know there's a lot you're hearing in the market. I know there's a lot. And by the way, you have to be an expert in mortgage-backed securities and understanding why there's QM and non-QM. And thank goodness it's coming back. But understanding all that, people are afraid and they don't even know what to ask questions about. So as leaders and experts and influencers, we have to anticipate their needs and give them a call and say, hey, I understand, I not understand, but the reason I'm calling is because there's possibility that you may not understand everything that's going on. I want to be here for you. I said I would be here for you way back and I'm here for you now. It's not that I said I would be there and I never called you. Right? It's making that phone call now and engaging and then saying, is there anybody else that who is concerned? Yeah. Not, hey, do you have a referral for me? But rather, is there anybody else that that's concerned about what's happening on and they need to just come to someone and let them bend an ear because I'm here to listen. I'm here to help. This is what I've always been here to do. So definitely through your acres of diamonds, as I call them, but definitely in the relationships too. If you always wanted to have that relationship with that one realtor, that one financial planner, now's the time to sort of stalk them a little bit, and reach out and see what they're up to and give them a call and say, I just admire you. I've watched you from afar for so long. And now that we've all had this opportunity to kind of step back just a hair on assessing our lives and assessing our relationships and businesses, I would love the opportunity to chat with you to see where I might be able to help you enrich your business and grow your business if that's something that you're interested in doing.
That's great. That's great. So listen, great conversations to have, whether it's like you said, the borrowers that are your field of diamonds, or the referral partners. But what can we do to set up systems? Because listen, right now, the business is easy to find.
Yeah.
if you
Won't be
can,
later.
but yeah, so if you're comfortable having those conversations, but what about what can we do today to set up systems? Because I know you're a person who loves systems. What can we do to set up systems today, so that we have a business when, because at some point everyone's going to get a refi and everyone's going to be in the twos. So,
And then what are you going to do?
yeah, exactly. How do we actually? And obviously, we know actually there's still going to be plenty of business to be done, but what do we do to position ourselves for the eventual slowdown, the eventual thinning of the herds, where there's going to be a lot of originators that are going to starve themselves out of the business? How do we position ourselves to make sure that they were still growing during those times?
Yeah. Well, I would just focus on 4 areas. And yes, they're all, they're skills, right? So the first is to focus on your sales skills. Where are you today? And no better time has there ever been. We're right now where we're able to have those conversations with the clients that are already in our database, to continue and deepen and enrich those relationships we have with the realtors and the other professionals that we want to have that opportunity to grow with, than we do right now. I mean, this is a great time to practice on everybody. So definitely your sales skills. I think that's going to be the big thing, because we're just too much. Look, we're all walking around. Well, not everybody. I don't ever mean to say that when I say we're all walking around, but we're all walking around with these paper bags on our head and nobody knows what's underneath it, right? Because we're just a commodity. I would encourage and invite everybody to start working on walking around with a Tiffany's box on your head, because you know what the expectation is, right? You know how you're going to feel by walking into a Tiffany's. You know that it's high end. You know you're going to get a little glass of champagne. The quality is really good. And you know what? It costs more, and I don't care, because it's the experience I get and I want more of it. So getting your sales skills down, that's number one. Getting your source skills down, making sure that you have the right sources, right? That you have the right real estate relationships, that you have the financial planners that you want. Those are things that I think I would be doing right now. Your system skills. What system do you have for converting? Conversions are going to be, we always talk about conversions, but it's going to be even more prevalent because there's going to be fewer people out there looking, because they all got these great low interest rates. So how are you going to work on, part of your conversion skill is your sales skills, but you have to have a system in place in order to not just call them once or 3 times, but 5 or 7, and do it in a manner that shows them that you're curious about them, that you're interested in helping them, that you're here for life, whatever means that you're using in that. And then the last piece, and not these aren't in any specific order, is your service skills. What do they look like? Do you know how to serve your client? Are you familiar with disc profiling, so that you know how to communicate with your client in the most effective way that's going to be attractive for them, so that they can tell somebody about the wonderful experience that they had, and still have another person come in who has a completely different personality, and your system and your service levels are such that they think they're the only client, because you know how to maneuver and pivot. Your entire team knows how to maneuver and pivot and work with those people. And there's a statistic out on this that 87% of people will pay higher prices to get a better experience.
Oh yeah, no
Right.
question about it.
And so that my whole practice was based on that. Even back in the days of Brokerageville, where we were expensive. I've always been someone who is not going to play the rate game. And of course we all do. 15% of the people that we work with want to know the rate, and that's going to be the most important thing. But honestly, I'd rather say goodbye to that client and work with people that recognize my value, that honor and respect my lifestyle. And the rest of them can go to somebody else who's acting like Horseshack, raising their hand, going, woo, me, right? I'll quote them till the sun comes down. I'd rather say no to those clients, and my quality of life is just better because of it.
That's great. So, and Tara just added, always show that you really care, really taking care of your clients and people in general. Works for business and in all aspects of your life. 100%, Tara. Great point. Great point. Yeah, that's key. That's great. I just put the I got all those 4 points. So there will be a scroll in there. And
I'm
again,
looking for him to see if I can see him too. Yeah, so it's sales skills, service skills, source skills, and system skills.
yeah, that's great. Great pieces of information there. Always, again, make sure actually you catch Jen's podcast. So listen, I want to talk about the future of the mortgage business.
Mm-hmm.
What opportunities do you see actually for the future of the mortgage business, like going on beyond COVID, going actually in the long-term future? Like what are things that an originator that today exists and possess their skills that will still exist in the future?
Yeah, well, those skills I just mentioned to you, I think are going to have to exist, right?
Yep.
They're going to look a little different. The way we service people will be more techy. I mean, there's no question about it. But I was telling my husband, I said, there's this like itty bitty type part of me that says, I want to go back in because I'm going to go kick butt. Because it's not 2020, and there's a lot of conversation about 2020, in our having clarity and all that. To me, this is the soaring 20s. We had the roaring 20s in the 1920s. This is the soaring 20s. If I were in this business, watch out. And I'm saying not me. If you're a person who's in this business, watch out. I think this is the decade to be in this business.
Yeah.
I just think it's incredible. The opportunities are just going to be incredible. But I do think that the things that are going to change, one is you've got to know, I think that, let me just tell you the three things so that you can help me, Andrew, bring this back to the fore. Remind me, because I'm 56 years old and I can't remember anything anymore. But I want to talk about virtual. I want to talk about charity, right?
Okay.
So don't let me forget to talk about those.
Virtual charity. You got it.
Well, and I've already forgot the third one, so maybe I'll just go in and start talking about virtual. No. So here's the deal. When the feds came out and they lowered interest rates again, and they opened up their financial window for businesses, etc., I found so many loan officers who had no clue.
Mm-hmm.
No clue what that meant. I've always been a student of our industry, understanding what happens on Wall Street, what happens to mortgage-backed securities, all of those things. And fortunately, I've worked in that realm as well. But you have to know this business. You have to understand what a V curve is. You have to understand what Fed dots are. If you don't understand Fed dots, you have to understand it. I hope to God you know what the Federal Reserve, the Federal Reserve rate is, and what plays a role. What drives that, and why is it that rates initially go up when the Federal Reserve lowers rates? Why does that happen? And what is prime, and how is that correlation with prime? And what are candlestick charts? And what's a bull market versus a bear? My goodness, you wouldn't believe the loan officers. I said, who knows what a bear is and a bull? And everybody's like, I don't know.
Wow.
Half the people knew. Less than half the people knew. And those that knew. But you have to know. You have to understand this. You have to be a student of this. Yes, you have to know your guidelines. But I think going forward, it's about the market. It's understanding the market. And let your guide, yes, you have to know your guidelines, but let your team be the master on those guidelines, where you can go to them and say, okay, what is the real guideline? Because, you're out flapping your gums, right? So I think that's one. I think that we're missing out terribly there. And realtors, I can tell you, because I've been doing a mortgage finance class for the last 10 years at CE. It's 6 hours of CE for
nice.
realtors that I created. They still crave it. They think that's the best class they've ever attended. You can have any other kind of class, but they want this mortgage finance class. They learn so much about it. So that's the first thing. The second is virtual. It's here to stay. Whether you like it or not, it's here to stay. We're going to have a lot more what we're talking about here. Even at me as a speaker, I'm usually on the road 2 to 3 weeks out of every month. I think that that's going to change. I'm going to be doing more virtual, and it's here to stay. And it isn't that as a loan officer, if you're watching this, that you can just continue to watch it as Netflix. You have to get in the game. You have to now do this. And so I would say level those skills up now. How do you do Zoom? How do you do breakout rooms? How do you market it? How do you set up an Eventbrite? How do you set up a Zoom, a Zoom webinar meeting? Do you go that far in doing that? In going into that and doing it in Zoom rather than just Eventbrite and having a Zoom. So how do you manage it? How do you engage with people? So this is something that we've pivoted now, and I'm teaching all of my clients is how to really do these virtual events. And then the last part about it is the charity component. Given what's happened, I think our world is, we have antennas up for community, we have antennas up for charity, we have antennas up for racial divide, we have antennas up for our country dividing, right? Everything is just really, really manifested while we've been sitting home. Families manifested, the need to give to people is manifested. I mean, you just name it. Everything's just really, really highlighted. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I think that, we already knew this, that a lot of people make the decision about who they're going to go with based on your community involvement.
Mm-hmm.
StarKist is an example. StarKist tuna is more expensive than others, but the reason people pay more for it is because they it's dolphin safe, right? Where they don't kill. And so it costs more for them to create it, but people will look at that and say, okay, do I want this brand or that brand? I love the cause. I love the cause that they're putting in there. And because of that cause, I'm going with them. So I would say find a cause that hits your heart real strong. And usually it's animals and children and elderly and veterans, and other areas as well. I would say get that cause out there and start marketing like crazy with that to let people know that you have a heart. And I think that a shield that we've had as mortgage professionals has been, the armor of scarcity, even though we need, if we can poke holes in that armor, it shows our abundance and it lets our light shine through. And I think that's going to be a client attractor from this day forward.
That's awesome. So putting more meaning into our business beyond just doing loans. And it's like
things.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's wonderful. Wonderful. I think we need to end on right there. That you said it right there. These so we have the 4 things we need to focus on now, which actually are also going to be the 4 things to focus on in the future, and the 3 things actually that create actually an everlasting mortgage practice. Jen, great to spend time with you. I really, really appreciate this time.
I always love talking to you. You ask the best questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Hopefully, we will see you in Atlanta again at the NAMBA conference. And I know we are going to definitely see you in Vegas.
Yes, at Originator Connect. I can't wait to be there. Yeah.
So excited.
As long as we're having it, hopefully we're still having it. Yeah.
I think listen.
Yeah, I'm totally excited about being there. And, and I am, by the way, if I can, I have a virtual workshop coming up, a 3-day workshop, July 20th through the 22nd. So if you'd like to spend more time with me and spend 3 days, as we're going through the workshop, I'm going to be talking about how I'm doing the workshop as we go through the workshop so that you can do your own with your realtors and clients and all of your people as well. So if you have interest in that, just give me a jingle, or private message me and I'll give you the information.
Fantastic. Where do they find you if they don't know how to use Google?
Yeah. Well, again, Mortgage Lending Mastery is the name of the podcast. So, listen in there. You can become a member of Mortgage Lending membership. We have Mortgage Lending Mastery membership. But, I'm all over the internet. So, just Jen Du Plessis, one N, and you'll find me. If you go to, by the way, there's a Jennifer Du Plessis who is in Southern Africa and she was indicted. That is not me.
Oh, so that's before you change your name?
Yeah, right. I have to go back to my maiden name of Krabenhoft. I don't think I can do that.
All right, then we actually have. What are those dates again? We got Tara's asking what those
20th
dates.
to the 22nd.
20th.
Virtual. Yeah.
Fantastic. Wonderful. All right, everyone, go get on that Google, learn more about it. Jen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for having me. And I wish everybody the best in what you're going through right now. Hang in there. We're going to be, this is going to be the best thing for you. Just hang in there. We got it.
Fantastic. Everyone, thank you for joining us for another Mortgage Leadership Outlook. Follow the link down below to catch previous episodes of Mortgage Leadership Outlook. Everyone, have a great day and stay safe.
Bye.